Hello everyone! Today's TikTok review topic is on ignorance of all types and forms in the Gendy community. We have misunderstandings about what lesbian means to just a general misunderstanding about life itself. I think these videos are pretty pretty good examples of what the community is like, although of course you really can't know until you decide to go on Twitter or Tumblr and read the really bad takes direct from the source. But if you're like me and do not like treading in those disturbing waters, I've got a great collection for you to hopefully find at least a little bit entertaining.
I'm not just straight, I'm also an ally. That's why I got this tattoo. I just want
Ah, yes, because allies get slurs tattooed on their ribcage, to show how much of an ally they are by using slurs.
Remember, I always love you. Remember.
I think she could have picked a better looking pet. That thing looks disturbing. But I'm not gonna focus on that. What I am gonna focus on is that a woman who has and will never be the target of that word thought that allyship is having that word tattooed on her ribcage. The thing that many gay men have heard before being attacked, bludgeoned, have had yelled at them from their parents, their partner's parents, have been called their entire lives. She can reclaim that word because she's a spicy straight. She's an ally. She's so different from the other women who date men that it's totally fine. And I'm sure there is at least one white lady out there or one white guy who has the N-word tattooed on themselves. But I would hope that they're not showing it so gleefully, as proudly as this woman is, because I swear to God, how many brain cells do you need to understand that a slur that doesn't apply to you cannot be reclaimed by you? It's that simple.
TERFs are actually kind of wild because they'll be like, I am a feminist. And what I mean by that is I think trans women are smarter than me.
I think that trans women are actually men, and that men in women's spaces are threatening and decrease the ability of women to play because of, let's think, historically, the direction of abuse has been men abusing women, men raping women. And of course, even in these fields, men are the ones who are sending used condoms to their female opponents. But no, it's not because, men pose a literal threat that can make people feel uncomfortable and perform worse. And no, it's because obviously we think men are smarter. That makes total sense. It doesn't say more about us than it does about you.
Prettier than me.
Or events that are specifically only for women, that often have scholarships just for women, should be given to women who have historically been barred from higher education, from work opportunities. Not to mention that the men who enter in these competitions on account of their transness are held to lower standards and allowed to flourish and take over these roles. I mean, there's a literal example of one of these trans women entering a beauty contest and being looking like something that crawled out from under a rock and winning, despite the fact that any woman who looked even similar wouldn't have gotten past, any level of this competition.
And just overall better than me because they were born male, and I've been told my entire life that men are better than women. So as a feminist, men are better than women.
And here's the reason why, people like this get on my nerves so much. You don't even know what your opponents are actually arguing about. Because if you look at any of the arguments from actual feminists, not just from conservatives who you assume are TERFs because you basically call anyone who disagrees with you a TERF. I mean actual feminists. It's because there's literally studies, so many studies, and I've talked about this in so many videos, showing that men impact how women perform in different areas, from the harassment that they give to women and sexual harassment to just the general fact that we are raised in a society, and society has an impact on how we view ourselves. There's stereotype threat. There's bias from those who judge us. There's a reason why we have affirmative action in certain areas. For example, we don't have a lot of women in healthcare. And you know what? A lot of women want female doctors, and that's a necessary thing to have. So if there are scholarships specifically for women who otherwise might not have been able to rise that high, why is that a bad thing? Why is it a bad thing to acknowledge that men have oppressed women and that there needs to be some help to get women to a level that they weren't able to achieve because of this historical oppression? You can agree with these things when it comes to race, because I know these people. Liberals like this are perfectly fine bowing down to any person of color who criticizes this, and they'll parrot the right things. But they don't internalize it and use it regarding gender. They think that race and class are the only things that exist in terms of how people are oppressed. Sex? No, not a thing. Gender is the same thing as sex, and you can choose your gender, and therefore all the women who've ever been oppressed chose their oppression, and it doesn't really exist. what thoughts are going through your brain to get you to this conclusion?
Like, it's difficult to see cognitive dissonance like this so strong out in the wild. I've had to block 4 cis women in my comments today for
How do you know that they're cis? What makes a cis woman different from a trans woman?
calling other cis women's bodies defective. It's like, do you guys actually want to, like, down with the patriarchy, or do you just want to grab it and use it to bludgeon other women like a tool? Because it doesn't hurt you as much as it hurts them. I don't know.
You literally don't know. You don't know what you're critiquing. You're going on the most surface level, basic, women are equal to men and therefore there shouldn't be any divisions. And you're not thinking, well, maybe there's a reason why, we have certain categories for men and for women. Maybe it's not because, I don't know, women are inferior, I don't understand why that's the conclusion you come to, that because women and men are different and might have different needs, that makes women inferior. It's like the same argument when it comes to saying that women are adult human females. Oh, that brings women down to just a reproductive ability. No, it doesn't. That's like saying that because humans are vertebrates and have spines, that it reduces us to our spine having this. That's not true. It's just a description of what humans typically have. And I'm sure maybe somebody has been born without a spine. It doesn't mean they're not human. It means that they're a deviation from the norm. They're still a human being. They're just one that was born without a spine. And all these attempts to redefine womanhood, to redefine these categories, and especially to ignore the existence of biological sex, and you are the problem. You are the problem because you're being unwilling to even recognize the reasons why we have these divisions. It's not because of an inferiority, it's because the fact that misogyny exists, oppression exists, and women are oppressed.
I think the biggest difference between the lesbianism of a TERF and the lesbianism of a trans person is that I love women much more than I proclaim to hate men.
Well, you're a straight man, so you don't exactly have to contend with the fact that lesbians are the smallest in the LGBT category, and that when even a small minority of straight men pretend to be women who want to pressure women who only like women into sex, that means that your dating pool is swarmed with people who you are not attracted to. That doesn't even go into the pressuring, doesn't go into the general abuse that lesbians face. So obviously you're going to end up talking a lot about a problem that you face. In the same way that someone who lives in a city that doesn't have much for, disabilities might complain a lot about not having wheelchair ramps because it's something that directly affects them. But of course, someone who has 2 legs and can walk perfectly fine isn't going to see the problem for what it is.
Now, after everything that men have put me through, I don't exactly have like a ton of love in my heart for them. But at the same time, I love women so much more than I could ever hate a man.
I hate his voice. I hate his voice so much. So much. Jesus Christ.
I don't know. I've scrolled through accounts with usernames like Moid Hater and stuff like that, and I start noticing that they really do spend 99% of their time talking about how much they hate men.
The oppressed are allowed to complain about their oppressors. 1. 2. You might also notice that, an activist who works with disability, who works specifically with a certain race, might also complain a lot about their oppressors or talk a lot about their oppressors. But I don't see you critiquing a black person complaining about how racism affects their lives, or how a person who is wheelchair bound is complaining too much about how they're not able to get around their city or aren't able to get health care. I don't understand why you think, someone who's specifically an activist, someone who specifically is ideologically focusing on women, talking about their oppressors, that's such a horrible thing. Maybe it's because you know that you are one of the oppressors and don't belong.
And they spend very little time talking about any love they might have for women. To me, it makes the whole lesbianism thing look kind of like a LARP.
First off, the pot calling the kettle black. Secondly, I don't have to proclaim my lesbianism all the time online to prove that I'm a lesbian. I have sex with women and I talk to women and I date women offline. I don't necessarily need to conflate that with my radical feminism, and I don't need to think about that specifically when I'm complaining about a topic like misogyny. That doesn't make me less of a lesbian because I'm not fetishizing them in broad daylight like you are.
Because you spend 99% of your time hating on men, but none of your time actually getting a girlfriend. And besides, who wants to date someone that negative, right?
Honestly, I don't even know what to say about this one. The argument in itself is stupid. It's stupid. Like, there are plenty of people who are single, and it doesn't mean they're not their sexuality, number one. Two, you're not a lesbian. You're a straight man in drag who's attempting to date a woman who has to be bi by definition because lesbians aren't attracted to men, regardless of what pronouns you use. I've never understood this, like, oh, I'm getting more girls. And okay, I don't give a shit. These are women who wouldn't be attracted to me anyway because they're attracted to you, a man. There's not, like, you're not even in the Venn diagram of, like, people who we don't even share an attractive, like, people. We don't share that. What was the point of this? Oh, I'm better than you because I have a girlfriend. I feel very sorry for her if you have one. Which in turn brings me to the next video, which I think is a pretty decent rebuttal to this one.
Stop saying that you're oppressed for having to exist in a space with trans people next to you.
Nobody's saying that, but you knew that already. Denying the reality of same-sex attraction is homophobic. We're not going to stop talking about it just because you want us to. Homosexual people exist whether you like that or not. You can enforce the concept of gender all you want. It's never going to be a reality. Nope. A lot of you refuse to admit that you're doing the work of conversion therapy centers from all over the world. A lesbian is just a female homosexual. That's it. There's nothing else. It's just a female homosexual.
And I think, again, it's really interesting how, like, this is the same thing that conversion therapists literally say, but it's used in different language. As that's basically it. It's just homophobia, just said in a different way so that you can feel super proud of yourself. And I think another issue that I have, and I've talked about this before, is, like, queer is different than being homosexual. Queer is literally a political stance, basically. If you don't go along with all of the leftist liberal political stances that they agree with, then you're not queer. And they use this against regular gay men and women. Oh, you wanted to get married and have kids? You're not really gay. Oh, you're a Republican? Oh, you're not really queer. You're not really gay. Well, no, because my sexuality does not define me. It's an aspect of who I am. But my lesbianism does not define me, mean that I have to agree on all these other issues. And yeah, that's why there are lesbians who will staunchly defend trans women, because we're not all a monolith. What a wonder.
Think about why you find that so upsetting. Think about why you're so repulsed at the idea that there are those of us out there who don't like penis. Aside from the fact that the foundation of the idea of gender is based on sexism, you're misconstruing the definition of misogyny. The basis of misogyny is the hatred of the female. That cannot be denied. That's both the dishonest and lesbophobic perspective. Sexuality is about sex, not the concept of gender. Gender doesn't exist.
Biological sex is fake. Yes, we all know that gender roles are fake, but do not say to a trans person, biologically male, born female.
Why? Because it's gonna hurt your feelings? Because the truth hurts? Even if no one says anything, even if everyone plays along, you can get prostate cancer and I can't because you are biologically male and I am biologically female. Like, nature doesn't care what you identify as or what mental illness that you have. Like, there are still issues that are going to affect you specifically because of your sex. You want to face pregnancy? I could potentially. And no matter how much you try to pretend otherwise, those categories will always exist.
Male-bodied. No. There is no biological criteria for gender that is both universal and a binary in human beings.
Yes, there is.
Where does that leave us?
There are males,
Free.
those of the sex that produce spermatoza, and females, those of the sex that produce ova. And those are the two categories for humans. There is no third zygote, there is no spectrum. You are either male or you are female. You can have disabilities, you can have deformities, you can have medical issues. But that doesn't change that you are of the sex that creates ova or spermatoza. Even if you have a hysterectomy, even if you are infertile, even if you have a intersex disorder, you are of one or the other sex and will have a specific life experience with the surgeries you might have, with medical issues, with medicines, with viruses, with so many things that are going to be only sex specific. Just because you don't like that this is a fact, just because it invalidates your feelings and your identity, doesn't make it less true. And that's what I love about the truth. It doesn't matter if you want to acknowledge it or believe in it, it's still going to be there, it's still going to exist, and it's still going to affect you. The only difference is how delusional you're going to be about it. Anyway, This, dear viewers, is where we part. These videos are all examples of Gendies being ignorant about various topics, and this isn't even like the widest expanse of them. This is just what I had lying on my computer because I harvest little TikToks from Radblur and from other videos just to hold on the show for these. So I just pulled together some, and this is just an example of some of what I stumble upon every day online. And it really astounds me that some of these ideas are held by people. Like this, that it's not just like we all know people out there have outlandish beliefs. And it's one thing if it's a fringe belief, like, putting a potato on an injection shot will take out all the bad things from the vaccine. Like, those are fringe beliefs that everyone laughs at. But these things are being taken seriously. People are seriously arguing that biological sex isn't real. People are seriously arguing that because women would like to have sports categories away from men, where, they typically face harassment and abuse from men, that means that we think that we're less intelligent. Like, the lack of critical thought, the lack of any kind of thought, is astounding. But after this many videos, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, and neither should you. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!